He did release his Second Amendment. I guess it's his policy position on the Second Amendment. And it's been called, I mean, I have some questions about it myself. Hot Air called it his mixed gun platform. Their big concern was that he was wrong on Project Exile and the benefits of the program and neglected to point out the existence of Project Safe Neighborhoods, which did exactly what Project Exile did. My concern came in when Trump was mentioning the mental health system, because I keep thinking, well, what did we spend $1 trillion for Obamacare on if it was not to make sure that we fix things like the broken mental health care system? And the question that I went away with every single one of his proposals in this was whether or not it was going to involve the expansion of government in order to achieve his objectives with the Second Amendment. What did you think about his policy?
Well, I think it's, he said he believes this, that, the other thing. He didn't say in that position paper, and maybe he doesn't have to, what he would do as president, what he would help usher in, what kind of things. He said he'd like to see, like driver's licenses are recognized across the country, state by state.
Right.
He'd like to see concealed carry recognized in every state. I'd love to see constitutional carry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great thing. But as a staunch Second Amendment supporter, I have a lot of trouble with the fact that Trump, in his book, one of his previous books, I think back in 2000, The America We Deserve, Trump called for longer background checks, longer waiting time, actually, and he also called for a quote-unquote assault weapons ban. Now, this is a guy who's changed his position on gun control, on abortion, on taxes.
Right.
I don't know anybody in my life who I respect who's ever held these positions that Trump has held. It's just, I cannot trust Donald Trump. I believe he's more politician than people actually understand, and he's willing to say anything to get this nomination. But you can't be for more government and suddenly be a small government guy on all these issues. It stinks, and a leopard doesn't change its spots, not this many of them.
Well, and I know that I was incredibly critical of Ben Carson when he had said at first, and he began to walk it back, although he was coupling it with his support of smart gun technology, which you and I are both not for at all. But he had believed for a time that gun ownership should be predicated upon where you live. Like, for instance, if you live in the city, well, then you don't really need, you have the cops there. If you live out in the rural areas with the wildlife, I guess, then, you're fine. And that seems to be not even as far as what Trump had said prior. I think it's fair. I think it's a fair question, Brad, and not gotcha, to ask, well, how do you reconcile what you're saying now with what you wrote in your book then?
Absolutely. And again, Dana, if we were just talking about guns, we could have that discussion. And by the way, Trump's got a concealed carry in New York. That's nearly impossible.
Right.
Where have you been fighting? If you believe so much in people's ability and their right to defend themselves, their family, and their property, how hard have you been fighting in New York, Mr. Trump, Mr. Manhattan, to help everybody else get gun permits there who want them? I mean, there are thousands of people turned down for gun permits in New York City. So I just, if it was one issue, we could have a discussion about, quote unquote, evolving. But Trump has been on the wrong side of every issue, as far as I'm concerned, as a small government constitutionalist. You don't change on this many things. Something is very wrong with Donald Trump.